Good morning. My name is Miss Ellie White, and we're here to talk about Matthew. And I will always pick out one or two verses and give a quick little lesson on that for the today. Is Matthew 5. Now, this is most famous for the Sermon on the Mount, so we will not be discussing that today. We'll look at something else a little bit more hidden, some of the jewels of God. As we're in Matthew 5, go to verse 13. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? Is it henceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of man? You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill that cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass away, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, until all be fulfilled. Whoever therefore shall break one of the least of these, and yet run around teaching them, shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever shall do and teach them shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. One last little verse. If you drop down to verse 27, it says, You have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, and this means in God's eyes, he takes things a little bit further, if you will. But I say unto you that whoever looks on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. So let's look at these three things that I picked out here. You are the salt of the earth. Okay. Every single time I have heard this preached, they say, this means you're supposed to flavor all the good shit that's all over the earth. There's all these bad guys and bad things going on, and you're supposed to flavor anything so it tastes better. Well, see, I'm an old farm girl, and I come back from the country, and I happen to be of the opinion that if you go out to the barn and you take a bucket full of cow poop, okay, bucket of excrement, and you pour salt on it, it's not going to make cow poop taste better. So what is this really saying? We need to understand the basics before we can just, justify and throw meaning out there. Well, salt, you need to understand its properties. True, we do use salt for flavoring, but why does salt make meat taste so good? It actually has nothing to do with the flavor of salt. It has to do with the fact that salt breaks down the molecules in the meat so that it's more tender and juicy. In other words, the salt helps to break down the meat or rot it a little bit, if you will, in order so that those muscles are strong and tight and, tough to chew on. As it breaks down the meat becomes more tender and then juicy. And it does give a little bit of a flavoring in there. So we're not supposed to make the poop taste better. We're just supposed to break down the evil and the bad things in the world. Break it all down. Break it all back down, the pottery back to the dust, so that God can put some water in and remake it into a brand new, beautiful bowl unto a purpose of honor. Take the salt, put it on the meat, let it break down those hard, gristly muscles until God can use you to help bring tenderness to the world and goodness to the world. Not flavoring poop, but making better of things. The second part in here was, whoever shall teach one of these things and not do what it says, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever shall do and teach them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. And we all know people, and especially, this is referring to pastors and such, that will stand up and say, you shouldn't lie, and you shouldn't steal, and you shouldn't do all these bad things. But I have pastorly privilege. Okay, that's a really cute word of saying, do what I say and not what I do. Okay? We need to understand that you need to figure out a different way to tell a story. If you can't say it without lying, to guard someone's character during the story, and then after the service, tell everybody the real story, who the real guy was. Okay? Because it will get around and it will embarrass him, and you will lose respect in the eyes of your flock. And point number 3 is on verse 27. You have heard it's been said since way back in the old times, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say to you, whoever looks on a woman to lust after her within his heart hath committed adultery with her already, adultery in his heart. So, I'll tell you a cute little story about that one, or rather not so cute. I was coming home from the hospital once, and a man who had been arranged by the pastor to pick me up and bring me home, about a 3-hour drive, called up and said, well, I'll tell you what, here's the deal. After he's already an hour and a half late of being there, and says, I'm not going to come. I'm not even going to start driving unless you agree to come back to my house with me on the way home and have sex. And I told the man, I said, even if I really wanted to do that, which I don't, okay, I just had surgery, all right? Huge, massive, invasive surgery. And I can't do anything like that. And I'm not going to sin. And I'm not going to commit adultery right in front of my young daughter that I'm trying to teach. And all these things. And the man would not listen. Well, his third excuse was, well, since the Bible, our pastor has preached that if you do it in your heart, you've already done it. Well, then we've already done it, so we might as well. Well, maybe he already committed the sin, but I didn't and won't. So don't let, these weird male excuses, I'm going to die of terminal this or that, come to pass, because God created us, and he knows that if he waits until you guys get married, that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. So don't go for all those little manipulating the pastor's sermons tricks, because they're absolutely not true. And there's many other sisters standing behind you that will help you to stay strong and stay away from men who will try to convince you of that. So thank you so much. And my name is Miss Ellie White, and feel free to contact me at buffalostudy@yahoo.com. Thank you so much.